Neville Goddard is one of the most profound spiritual teachers of all time. His ideas about imagination, consciousness, and creating from the fourth dimension have inspired millions. But for most people, they're hard to actually apply. That changes today. I'm David Bayer. I've spent the last decade transforming powerful spiritual principles into practical frameworks, and I built a $40 million business and a million listener a month podcast, breaking these concepts down for people just like you. In this episode, I'll walk you through Neville's 7 core teachings and show you exactly how to apply them to go beyond self-awareness, rewire your brain, and re-engineer your reality. Neville's core teaching number 1: imagination creates reality. Imagination is not fantasy, according to Neville. It's the creative power of consciousness. Everything in the physical world was first imagined. He says, imagination is God. Your inner world shapes your outer world. And most people dismiss imagination as just daydreaming. But it's the most powerful force in the universe. What you consistently imagine and feel real becomes your experience. And Neville explains that there are 2 dimensions that exist simultaneously: a third dimension and a fourth dimensional reality. He says the third dimension is a material reality. It is your daily life. It is what we generally exclusively refer to as the only reality. He says it's fixed, it's 5 sensory. You can detect it through all of your senses. It is a linear reality with a past, a present, and a future. But what he also says is existing simultaneous to this third dimensional space that we live in is a fourth dimension. He said this fourth dimension has different qualities and characteristics. It is a reality of potential. It is a quantum or wave or energy form reality as opposed to a particle or material reality. He says everything in the fourth dimension is actually right here, right now, as a potential waiting to manifest. So that dream home that you want, it's actually right here, right now. That bank account that you desire, it's actually right here, right now. The key is to tune your vibration or match your emotions and your thoughts towards that reality. And through the day-to-day unfolding of your life, it must become real. It must go from the fourth dimension to the third dimensional reality through new thoughts that you have, new actions that you take, and coincidences and synchronicities. Your life will transform, and that which is invisible but real right here, right now in the fourth dimension will become your manifested experience. Now, some people say, but Dave, my life never actually changes. How can you say that everything comes from the fourth dimension? Well, that's because even though your reality feels the same from day to day, it's actually streaming moment by moment from the fourth dimension. But most people actually think the same thoughts every day, or they react the same way to their life. And so their life seems to stay the same, even though it's actually materializing on a moment-by-moment basis. It's sort of like a Groundhog Day type of experience, living the same life over and over again. So money is hard to make. You can't trust people. You're not good enough. This is what you think, and this is what you think about your third-dimensional daily life. And so this is what you think, this is what you imagine, and this is what you continue to call forth from the fourth dimension. The other important thing to understand is imagination isn't just when you sit and visualize in a room by yourself. Realize that we are imagining all the time. So when you're having a conversation in your head that someone shouldn't have said something to you or done something a particular way, or you're talking to yourself about having too much to do and that you can't get it all done, that's actually the voice of imagination. You are imagining. When you drive from point A to point B and you're stuck in your head and you don't even understand how you got to where you were going, that whole time you were imagining. And unfortunately, most of us are spending way too much time imagining a future that we don't want. So the key here is to be in your third dimensional life, but as it talks about in scripture, not of it. In other words, to bring your attention to the future that you want, even when you are in a present moment that defies it. To know that abundance is coming because it already exists right here, right now, and bring your attention to it. In other words, find the abundance that is there and it will magnify. Find the health that is there and it will magnify. Find the success that is there right now, even though it may not be as much as you want, and it will begin to grow. It will continue to stream from the fourth dimension in greater and greater quantities. Same thing with health. Same thing with success. Ignore your present reality because it's basically old news. You've already imagined that, and here it is. Live your life in anticipation of what you want, and what you anticipate must become your reality. I had a vision for a dream home, a sanctuary, a place where I could hold private retreats in nature, entertain my family, big house. And even though I didn't know how or where, I held on to that image and I anticipated that image. I even went on Google Images and I found a picture of a home when I was broke and had 2 homes in foreclosure that I wanted, and I put it on my vision board. 10 years later, I'm living in my dream home. I have some friends that come over and they see my vision board on my desk, and one of them said, "Hey, did you paste the front of this home on your vision board?" And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, the front of my house is identical to this home. So over the course of 10 years, my vision streamed itself into my life through all kinds of circumstances and situations, and of course, action that I took. But my imagination became my reality. Now, Neville's core teaching number 2, the law of assumption. Whatever you assume to be true becomes true in your experience. Assumptions are beliefs that you hold without really consciously examining them. So most people assume that they're limited. They assume that success is hard. They assume that they're not worthy or they're not good enough. So to change your life, you have to assume the opposite of your limiting beliefs. So live as if your desired state is already true, not something you're working toward. And this is literally the core tool that we teach called the decision matrix, and it works like this. When you identify a limiting belief, like I don't matter, for example, or I'm not important, you make an opposite decision, something like I matter big time, or I'm critically important. And you assume the opposite of the limiting belief. The third step in this framework, from limiting belief to assuming the opposite, which solidifies it, is to say, well, what evidence do I have for the fact that that's true? What evidence do I have for the fact that I am critically important? See, questions are really powerful because your brain is like a search engine. So if you ask a question, you'll get an answer. So if you're sitting there writing out evidence for why your new assumption is true, it might look like, well, how is it true that I'm critically important? Because I play an important role in my work, because I touch people's lives every day, because I'm connected to all other people and I actually start to inform the intricate system of timing. I'm part of the great system of timing that moves all of life forward. I'm a singular perception of infinite intelligence, and my perspective matters. You reinforce the assumption with evidence from your own life and what you truly believe about life, and you literally start to carve out the old limiting belief and replace it with the new decision, right? This is the neural pruning process that allows you to disassociate yourself from the old patterns of limiting beliefs and assume something new. You can literally take your biggest limitation and assume the exact opposite is true and find evidence to support the opposite. This is one of my most powerful daily practices when I first started working with my beliefs. Every morning, I'd wake up, and if I was feeling stressed or overwhelmed or depressed, I'd look at what I was thinking, what I was assuming, and I'd use this decision matrix technique to shift it. And by the way, I cover this technique and more in my book, A Changed Mind. Neville's core teaching number 3, feeling is the secret. So Neville's concept here is, and by the way, it's the title of one of Neville's most famous books, is that ideas without emotion remain powerless. So you must feel the reality of your desire before it manifests. Most people think about what they want, but they feel their current circumstances. So he talks about this as the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is what impresses the subconscious mind. And Neville was really ahead of his time here. What he understood was that the nervous system is a broadcasting antenna. That when you have thoughts, you experience that thought as an emotion. And it goes from an electromagnetic activation in your brain to a vibration throughout your entire nervous system and your entire body. Your nervous system is like a broadcast tower. And emotion is the frequency that you broadcast. Now, 2 things happen as a result of feeling your future. Number 1, you start to activate that potential that we talked about in the 4th dimension. So you start to have ideas. You start to see things differently. You have hunches that will lead you to creating your desires. And second, your broadcast is actually received at an unconscious level by other people. And so at an unconscious level, they start doing things, taking action, creating rendezvous with you. This is the idea of law of attraction. You begin to create meetups and synchronicities with other people that become part of you manifesting your desire, right? On a practical level, you just know that oftentimes you think about someone and they call you, or you've been thinking about someone and you run to them in a grocery store. Hey, it's David. Quick interruption to your regularly scheduled podcast episode. I want to let you know about an opportunity to go even deeper into this work together. If you have not yet, please check out the show notes. In there, we've got links to both our Mind Hack and our Whole Human Framework programs. Our Mind Hack course is an incredible framework. It's the foundation of everything that I teach on this show to help you understand how to become deeply aware of the subconscious programs that are holding you back and to teach you the technologies and frameworks to allow you to dramatically transform those belief systems and rewire your brain. Again, the Mind Hack program is our 7-day self-paced program. We also have our 12-week course, The Whole Human Framework. And we've got both of them right now bundled in a special offer for those of you who want to go big, want to go fast, and who understand that you don't want to put off another day of your full potential or holding on to unnecessary stress, anxiety, or suffering, but you want to be liberated from these habits of thinking and have a powerful living experience. Check out the link in the show notes. Jump on over to the website. Take a look at the programs and the extraordinary success stories of entrepreneurs just like you who have gone through these courses, and I will see you on the other side. And now, back to your regularly scheduled podcast episode. This is why paying attention to how you feel is so important, because when you feel good, you're creating good feeling events in your future. But when you're feeling bad, you're creating future events that are undesirable. So as Neville says, feeling is the key. And he encourages us to stay in a powerful state more consistently if we want to create a future that we love. Neville's core teaching number 4, he calls it SATS, state akin to sleep. Now, this is just fancy Neville talk, but he talks about the drowsy state right before you go to bed. He says, in this state, the conscious mind relaxes and suggestions penetrate the subconscious mind. He says you should create a scene, you should imagine something that implies that your desires are fulfilled. And you should loop this scene with sensory vividness as you fall asleep. Basically visualize on loop, and the subconscious mind starts to accept these imagined experiences as real when the conscious mind is quiet. Now, it sounds a little kooky at first, but guess what? What Neville was talking about more than 50 years ago is 100% supported by neuroscience and brainwave data. Here's how it works. During this state, EEG studies show a drop in alpha wave activity that's associated with relaxed wakefulness as you fall asleep and the emergence of theta ripples and the flattening of EEG signals. This is indicative of loosening cognition, a relaxing of your mind, and increased receptivity. Individuals in this state are more receptive to suggestion. This is a hypnotic state, and research has shown that listening to hypnotic suggestion before sleep can significantly increase slow wave sleep, especially in highly hypnotizable individuals. So this state has also been identified as a creativity hotspot. So it's a place where original ideas can surface more freely before falling fully asleep. So Neville was absolutely right. The brain shifts into theta-rich receptive states right before sleep, providing a solid physiological basis for the idea that suggestions or imaginative thoughts during that moment are more likely to take root. So in short, yes, there's a scientific backing for the notion that the moments just before sleep are especially powerful for influencing the subconscious mind. Neville's core teaching number 5, living in the end. Neville talks about the importance of mentally and emotionally inhabiting your desired outcomes now. Not waiting until they happen, but now. He says doing that now is actually what allows them to happen in the future. He says don't live in the process of getting there. Live as if you're already arrived. And he has a great quote. He says, think from the end, not of the end. Your current circumstances are just the bridge between where you were and where you're going. And when you live in the end, the bridge of what he calls incidences appears automatically. Again, the coincidences, the synchronicities, the path. And this relates a lot to what I teach on current self versus future self. Neville's basically saying, act as if you've achieved the outcome. And even though a lot of people think of this as fake it until you make it, it's really much more powerful than that for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you want to become a millionaire, and on a daily basis, even though you have no money right now, you start to act like a millionaire, you start to think like a millionaire, you start to feel like a millionaire. And you took that daily action and you started doing that for enough time and you interacted with people like a millionaire. Don't you think over time, eventually you'd become a millionaire? I mean, think of this. If you acted like an alcoholic, if you thought like an alcoholic, if you bought like an alcoholic and only hung out with alcoholics, and you drank like an alcoholic, give it enough time, wouldn't you become an alcoholic? This was actually one of the things my sponsor taught me as I got sober. He said, look, Even though right now you're an alcoholic and a drug addict, you're going to start building the identity of someone who is sober. How do you do that? You start thinking, feeling, acting, and hanging out with sober people. One of my good friends, Cody Jefferson, says, "This is who I am, so this is what I do." You do like a rich person does and you get rich. You do like a sober person does and you get sober. So there's a lot of truth in the idea of acting as if right now or inhabiting the desired outcome now. The other really interesting thing, and this comes from a study in 2009, I've referenced this on other episodes, it was featured in Time Magazine, it was conducted at Harvard. They brought in piano players to play the piano and they studied what parts of their brain lit up. And so as they were playing the piano, they studied them. Then they had them come back in and just imagine playing the piano and the same parts of their brain lit up. And so what we learned from this study, and there have been several others since then, is your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So if you inhabit or imagine a wealth consciousness now, you literally start to build memories as if you were a wealthy person already. If you start to assume health now, you start to build memories as if you were healthy already. Your brain doesn't know the difference between your current situation and where you're placing your attention, your focus, your thoughts, your emotions, and your imagination. You start to build a memory of a future that hasn't happened yet. You start to become the healthy, wealthy person, literally in terms of your brain structure now. Give it a little bit of time, and reality has to catch up. Neville's core teaching number 6, revision or rewriting your past. So revision is rewriting past events in your imagination. You go back to moments that created limiting beliefs or emotional wounds, and you imagine those events happening the way you wish they had. And this isn't denial, it's actually recognizing that your current memory is creating your present experience. And when you revise the past, you change its influence on your future. Now, most people think that the past is fixed, that once something happens, it's set in stone. But that's not actually how the brain works. The truth is, your memory is not a filing cabinet. It's more like a Google Doc. Every time you open it, you're editing it, whether you realize it or not. So revision is where you go back to painful or limiting memories and you imagine them unfolding the way you wish they had. A conversation where you felt rejected becomes one where you're accepted. A moment of shame becomes a moment of love. And when you do this deliberately, something incredible happens. Your nervous system starts to respond as if that new version is what actually happened. Now, some people hear this and think it's denial, but it's not. It's actually grounded in science. In neuroscience, there's a phenomenon called memory reconsolidation. And research shows that when you recall a memory, it becomes temporarily malleable. And during that window, usually a few hours, you can change the emotional association of that memory. And when the brain saves it again, it includes the new emotional tone. That's how trauma can be healed. And it's exactly what Neville was teaching. Decades before we had fMRI scans to prove it, psychology backs this too. Modalities like EMDR or internal family systems and somatic experiencing all use the same principle. They go back to the source of the wound, they bring consciousness and imagination to it, and let the body encode a new experience. So you're not pretending it didn't happen, you're reclaiming your authorship of what it means. And here's why this matters. Your subconscious isn't reacting to the world, it's actually reacting to your memory of the world. So when you revise the past, you're not changing history, you're changing the lens you see through. And that lens shapes your thoughts, your emotions, your choices, and your future. So the question is, what story from your past still holds power over you? And are you willing to go back not to relive it, but to rewrite it? Because when you do, you don't just change the memory, you literally change who you are. Neville's core teaching number 7, persistence and mental diet. So Neville's concept here is persistence, meaning maintaining your assumption despite contradictory evidence, right? Life is always going to show up as you start to make these new decisions, as you assume a different future, and there's going to be old evidence or old patterns that show up. And so he talks about getting into a mental diet. In other words, carefully monitoring and choosing your thoughts throughout the day. See, most people give up when they don't see immediate results. And so your dominant mental diet, meaning what you think about most, is creating your experience. And so you have to be vigilant about what you allow your mind to dwell on, and in fact, how you're reacting to your current reality. So there's a concept we teach called the echo effect. And it's a really powerful concept as people get into belief shifting or assuming a new reality. And it allows you to stay loyal to your new beliefs or your imagined future, even when your reality is showing up as something contradictory to it. You have to understand that the reality that you're living today and tomorrow and for the next few days, it's already been determined. If you're creating your reality through what you think, which you are, then that means the present moment is actually a byproduct of what you've been thinking before. So for a period of time, you're going to be experiencing an echo of the old version of you. Old belief systems, old patterns of thought, old patterns of emotion have already determined to a great degree what your next few weeks are going to look like. You have to stay loyal to your new decision, to your future during this period of transition. So when life shows up contradictory to what you've decided, just know it is a passing thought. It is an echo. It should not deter you from holding on to your new belief systems. Now, in summary, Neville's work is brilliant, and it can feel abstract without a practical application system. The missing piece is usually real-time integration and bridging his meditation and visualization concepts with a lot of the distinctions that we talked about today. His teachings work best, I find, when combined with consistent belief work and nervous system regulation. And none of this is about positive thinking. It's about conscious transformation. My recommendation is start with one Neville technique and master it before adding others. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I love being here with you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on the journey. If you haven't yet and you're following along on YouTube, subscribe and hit that bell icon. Leave a comment. I try to read all of them. If you're following along on the audio platform, do the same thing. Subscribe and leave me a rating and review. And most importantly, share this episode if you loved it with somebody who needs to hear it. And I will see you in the next episode. Hey, it's David. Hop on over to davidbear.com. Click right here. There's also a link in the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook, as well as a couple of trainings to help you master the inner game. This is a great way to stay informed and be a part of our community and be notified of special announcements. Click below, head on over to the website, get subscribed. If you loved this video, make sure you check out this one or this one, and I will see you in the next video.